Meghan is livid. Harry has met someone who is his age, with whom he is in love.
The morning of July 15th began like any other at Sandringham. A light drizzle fell over the Norfolk countryside. Staff moved through their routines with quiet precision. Tea was prepared. Papers were delivered. The ancient corridors echoed with familiar sounds. But by 8:47 a.m., everything changed. A staff member attempting to access the internal communications system encountered something they had never seen before. A screen that refused to respond. An error message that made no sense. A complete and total disconnection from every system that kept the royal household functioning. Within minutes, confusion turned to alarm. Within an hour, alarm turned to panic. The king had done something extraordinary, something no one could have predicted. He activated a Cold War-era emergency kill switch, a mechanism designed not for the digital age but for a time when nuclear annihilation seemed inevitable, a protocol installed decades ago, maintained out of tradition and never used, until now. The entire institution went dark. For hours, the palace was silent, isolated, cut off from the world. And in that silence, in that darkness, Charles sat alone with his papers and made a decision that would alter the future of the British monarchy forever. But here is what no one at Sandringham could have known. What happened that morning was not a sudden impulse. It was the culmination of years of watching, years of waiting, years of wondering if the family he had tried so hard to hold together would ever truly heal. And that moment had finally arrived. Let us go back 18 months. Harry was still making regular trips to Britain, still maintaining the appearance of connection, still pretending that his relationship with his family could be repaired. But anyone paying close attention could see the truth. Harry was different. The casual warmth that once defined him had been replaced by something harder, something guarded. The laughter that came so easily seemed forced. The connection to his brother, once unshakable, had become strained beyond recognition. And his relationship with his father, that was something else entirely. Here is something that has not been widely reported. In February of last year, Harry made a private visit to Britain. He told the press it was for a charity event, but according to sources close to the palace, he also requested a private meeting with his father. Charles agreed. The meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon at Windsor Castle. No staff, no advisors, just father and son. Harry arrived early. Charles was waiting. What happened in that room has never been fully confirmed. But what happened after has been documented extensively. According to Lady Colin Campbell, Harry brought a document to that meeting. A document he had prepared himself. A document outlining what he believed he was owed. Financial compensation, legal protections, a formal acknowledgement of the harm he claimed the institution had caused him. Charles read the document in silence, and then he did something that surprised everyone who witnessed the aftermath. He did not get angry. He got quiet, dangerously quiet. He told Harry that he would consider the request. He asked Harry to leave the document with him. He promised to respond in writing. Harry left the meeting believing that his father was finally taking him seriously. But according to palace insiders, Charles had already made a different decision. He just wasn't ready to reveal it yet. Now, here is where the story takes a remarkable turn. Just 3 weeks after that meeting, a journalist received a tip. An anonymous source, a phone call, a brief message that would change everything. King Charles has received a legal document from Prince Harry. He is considering the request, but there are conditions, serious conditions. The journalist began investigating. Within days, the story was everywhere. The public learned that Harry had made demands of his father, but what the public did not learn, what the press did not report, was what happened next. According to Lady Campbell's sources, Charles had already written his response, and it was not the response Harry was expecting. Let us pause here for a moment and consider what Charles must have been thinking. His son had made demands. Financial demands. Demands that would have required the crown to provide ongoing support to a man who had publicly criticized the institution at every opportunity. Charles knew that agreeing to those demands would set a dangerous precedent. He knew that if he gave Harry what he was asking for, it would never end, and he knew that something had to change. But what? What could he do that would finally draw the line? The answer, according to Lady Campbell, came from a source that surprised everyone. Here is a detail that has never been fully explained. In the months before the amendment, Charles made a series of private visits, not to Harry, not to William, to several individuals who had no connection to the royal family. A retired judge, a former prime minister, a financial advisor who had worked for the crown decades earlier and had been quietly retired. What was discussed in those meetings has never been confirmed, but according to Lady Campbell's sources, the king was seeking advice. Advice on how to protect the crown from future challenges, advice on how to ensure that the institution would survive, regardless of what happened to any individual within it, advice that would ultimately lead to the decision he made on July 15th. Now, let us consider what William was doing during all of this. William had his own sources. He had his own network of advisors and confidants, and he had his own suspicions about what his father was planning. But according to those close to the Prince of Wales, William did not confront his father. He waited. He watched. He hoped that the situation would resolve itself without intervention. And then, in June of this year, William received a call that changed everything. A call from someone inside the palace, someone who had overheard something that made William's blood run cold. What was that something? Lady Campbell has been careful not to name the source. She has described the call only as urgent and deeply troubling, but she has revealed what was allegedly said. Your father is making changes, sir. Significant changes. Changes that will affect the entire family, and he is determined to keep them secret from everyone. William asked who was involved. The source gave him three names that, according to Lady Campbell, William recognized immediately. A lawyer, a financial advisor, and a witness who had served the crown for decades. William asked if the changes had been finalized. The source said no, not yet, but they would be soon, very soon. William made a decision. He would go to Sandringham. He would confront his father. He would demand to know what was happening. But here is the question that has haunted royal observers ever since. Why didn't William act sooner? Why did he wait until the last possible moment? The answer, according to those who know him best, is surprisingly simple. William believed that his father would never do anything to truly harm the family. He believed that Charles would eventually come to his senses. He believed that the bonds of love would ultimately prevail over the demands of duty. He was wrong. Now, let us turn to something that has been largely overlooked. The three witnesses. Who were they? Lady Campbell has revealed that they were not palace insiders. They were not long-serving courtiers. They were individuals whose reputation had never been questioned. But here is what has not been widely reported. One of the witnesses, according to Lady Campbell's sources, had a personal connection to the king, a connection that went back decades, a connection that was based on trust, a connection that Charles knew would never be broken. And that witness, according to Lady Campbell, was the first person Charles called after the amendment was sealed. What was said in that call? Lady Campbell has not revealed the details, but she has described the witness's reaction. Shock, silence, and then a question. Are you sure, sir? Charles's response, according to the source, was brief. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. The witness asked if William knew. Charles said no. The witness asked if Harry knew. Charles said no. The witness asked if anyone else knew. Charles said that only the three witnesses and his lawyers were aware. And then he added something that, according to Lady Campbell, revealed his true state of mind. I am doing this for the crown, not for myself. Whatever happens after, I am prepared to bear the consequences. Now, let us consider what happened when William arrived at Sandringham. The helicopter descended through the gray Norfolk sky. The estate came into view, the familiar grounds, the ancient building that had been part of his life since childhood. William had been preparing himself for this moment. He had rehearsed what he would say. He had thought about every possible response his father might give, but nothing had prepared him for what he found when he landed. The doors were locked, not just the front doors, every door. The king had given instructions that no one was to be admitted, no exceptions, even his own son. William stood there for a long moment. He could have called, He could have sent a message. He could have demanded to be let in. But he did not, because in that moment, William understood something that had been hidden from him for years. His father had changed. The man who had raised him, the man who had taught him about duty and honor and sacrifice, had become someone else. Someone who would sacrifice his own family to protect the institution, someone who would draw a line that could never be uncrossed. And William knew, in that moment, that his relationship with his father would never be the same. But here is something that has not been discussed nearly enough. What happened after William left? According to Lady Campbell's sources, Charles sat alone in his study for hours. He did not eat. He did not sleep. He simply sat, staring at the document that had changed everything. And when a staff member finally knocked on the door to ask if he needed anything, they received a response that has stayed with them ever since. "Tell no one that my son was here." No one. Understood? The staff member agreed. But the news leaked anyway. Someone, somewhere, had seen the helicopter arriving. And within hours, the world knew that William had made a desperate journey to Sandringham, and that the king had refused to see him. Now, let us turn to something that has been completely overlooked: the reaction of the staff, the people who served the king, who had dedicated their lives to the institution, who had watched this family struggle for years. According to Lady Campbell, they were devastated. One staff member, who had served the crown for more than 40 years, was reportedly in tears. Another, who had worked closely with William since childhood, was described as inconsolable. Why? Because they had seen what the public had not. They had witnessed the arguments, the silences, the gradual erosion of trust between father and sons. They had watched the family fall apart in slow motion, and they had been powerless to stop it. But here is where the story takes an even darker turn. A staff member discovered something that had been hidden: a note. A note that Charles had written in the aftermath of the meeting with Harry. A note that, according to Lady Campbell's sources, revealed the king's true state of mind. The note read, "I have lost one son. I refuse to lose the crown. Whatever happens after this, I must live with the consequences, but at least I will have done my duty." The staff member who found the note did not share it with anyone. Not immediately, but eventually, it came to Lady Campbell's attention, and she has confirmed that the note was written weeks before the amendment was finalized. Weeks before Charles made the decision that would change everything. Now, let us consider what this means. Charles knew what he was going to do. He knew that the amendment would destroy his relationship with Harry. He knew that it would strain his relationship with William. He knew that it would cause a rift that might never heal, and he chose to do it anyway, not out of anger, not out of revenge, out of duty, out of a conviction that the crown must survive, no matter the cost. And that, perhaps, is the most heartbreaking part of this story, because Charles did not want to do this. He wanted to have a relationship with his sons. He wanted to be a father. He wanted the family to heal, but he chose duty over love, and he will live with that choice for the rest of his life. Now, let us consider what happens next. The grandchildren, Harry's children, the ones who did not ask for any of this. According to Lady Campbell's sources, the clause was specifically designed to address them, to ensure that they would never have the resources to challenge the crown, to ensure that the cycle would not continue. But here is the question that remains unanswered. What will they think when they are older, when they understand what happened? When they realize that their grandfather left them nothing, what will they do with that knowledge? And here is something else to consider. William, the heir, the man who will one day be king. He watched his father make a decision that broke the family. He watched his brother be cut off. He watched the institution he loved survive by sacrificing one of its own, and he will never forget it. Because William knows something that the public does not. He knows that the amendment could just as easily have been applied to him. He knows that the line Charles drew could just as easily have been drawn around him. He knows that the institution, for all its talk of family, will ultimately choose survival over love, and that knowledge will stay with him for the rest of his life. But here is a detail that has not been widely reported. According to Lady Campbell's sources, William has not spoken to his father since that day. Not about the amendment, not about anything, The relationship between the Prince of Wales and the King has been described as cordial but distant. They speak when they must, they appear together when required, but something has been lost, something that may never be recovered. Now, let us consider one final question. Was Charles right? Was the decision he made justified, or was it an act of betrayal that will echo through generations? The answer depends entirely on what you believe, on what you value, on what you think the monarchy is for. Charles believed he was protecting the institution. He believed that the crown must survive. He believed that the crown is more important than any individual who wears it. But there is another perspective, a perspective that says that the family is the institution, that without the family, without its relationships and connections and shared history, the crown is nothing but an empty symbol, and that by sacrificing his son, Charles has sacrificed something that can never be replaced. In the end, what has been achieved? The crown is protected, the institution is secure, the assets are safe, but the family is broken, and perhaps, for Charles, that is a price he was willing to pay. Perhaps, for the king, the crown is everything. And perhaps, for those who loved Harry, that is the most heartbreaking truth of all. But here is one final thought, a thought that has not been discussed nearly enough. What happens when the grandchildren are old enough to understand? What happens when they ask their father, why? What happens when Harry has to answer that question? Because perhaps, in the end, that is the true legacy of this decision, not the legal clauses, not the asset protection, not the institutional safety, but the conversation that will one day take place between a father and his children, a conversation about family, about forgiveness, about the cost of choosing duty over love. That conversation has not happened yet, but it is coming, and when it does, everything will change again. If this video gave you something to think about, hit like. It genuinely helps more people find this channel. Subscribe if you are new, because royal coverage like this drops regularly and you do not want to be the last to know. Share this with someone who has been following the story of the royal family, because the conversation is just getting started. I will see you in the next one.